Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bottomless Coffee Podcast. I'm Jerome Evans, all over the internets at Jerome T. Evans. And today we are talking with my friend and fashion designer to at least one star, Yvann Filipczak. How are you, Yvann? Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm great. How are you, Jerome?
Oh, I'm doing really, really well. Obviously, I've done a few of these episodes with friends
Mhm.
now, and I'm always like effervescent. I feel like during the episodes and like a little gushy, so forgive me.
I think I'll be the same.
Okay, good. So, what we want to do on this episode is talk through who you are, how you became a fashion designer, your brand, and your future. But first, I have a curveball
Okay,
question that I actually do not know the answer to.
okay.
Do you remember how we met?
I'm pretty sure we met through Will Ramser, I believe. I'm thinking like it was part of that group of Atlanta gays.
Yes, William is such a wonderful connector, and and a great podcast guest.
The podcast I listened to was amazing. So yeah,
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. So okay, if it was at William's thing, it's probably a party.
most
Uh,
likely.
did you dress up for that party that you could recall?
I definitely recall dressing up at parties for Will, but I don't remember if the one that I met you at, we were dressed up or not. Most likely, let's go with yes.
So, okay. So for William, at that time, it was like, oh, this is kind of me exploring fashion design a little bit. Was it similar for you? Because for me, it was like, I'm going to dress up and I'm going to get drunk.
I think it was like more like you. I was like, I don't really care for the way I'm dressing, and it's more about the partying.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. So we met at a party. That is confirmed by my Google Photos. I
Okay,
looked back to the very beginning and I was like, okay, we're at a party, so that makes sense.
okay, yeah. Ta-da.
So you live in Atlanta.
I do. Back to Atlanta for the past 3 years after 4 years in New York.
Hmm.
And I lived in Atlanta obviously before for 7 years where we met. But yeah, back in Atlanta for the past 3 years.
You have a French accent,
Yes.
but you're American.
Yes, I now have dual citizenship as of 2 months ago, something like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. But when did you move to the United States?
So I moved to the US when I was 17, so I'm now 31, so it's been
Oh,
4 years. um, I moved here with my family for my father's business and moved to Marietta, Georgia to start. And then we made our way down to Atlanta and got to meet you.
what were your first 17 years like in France?
Growing up, so I grew up in Nice, southeast, close to the water and Italy. So I had a really beautiful childhood. People go there for vacation, so it was like really pretty to grow up. And I didn't really realize how pretty it was until I had to like go live somewhere else. At the age of 13, I moved to another side of France, which was also beautiful, but not by the water. And I was pretty upset about living there. But yeah, no, I had a great childhood and upbringing, and was excited to move to the US. And really excited about high school. I had watched. This is gonna be. I'm gonna regret saying this. I watched High School Musical a lot before moving to the US, and when I moved, I was really excited because our mascot was the Wildcats, just like in High School Musical, and I really, I really was excited about that. So yeah.
Okay, so so you're a fashion designer now, and you weren't really thinking about fashion design at the parties that William Ramsey was throwing. But in France, you were watching High School Musical a lot. So were you interested in like musical theater at that time? Or do you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were growing up?
Interesting. Yeah, no. So at that point, I wasn't interested in musical costume design. I just think I liked, the dancing and the singing and the energy that the US was showcasing. I was like, oh, like this is way more fun than high school in France. So I want to be there. I want to be part of that. But to go back to your question, yeah, like I didn't know yet that I wanted to do fashion design. I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I grew up painting and drawing, and um, I wasn't sure yet, but yeah, that came on a little later for sure.
I'm sticking with High School Musical for one more second. Can you sing? I've never heard you sing.
Oh my god, I cannot sing.
But dance. I've seen you dance.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so fun. I love that for sure. No singing.
Okay, so then you went to Marietta
Mhm.
of all places. Um,
I know. I felt honestly it was a good transition from France to the US, like being in the suburbs of a big city. That was a good way of easing your way into the American culture. So I'm glad with the way it went. Yeah.
were you an out gay person in France?
No, so I already knew I was gay, and kind of figured it all out. Like, I was dating girls until I was maybe like 15, 16. Actually, I had a crush on a girl when I was 17 here in the US, which was my last girl crush. But I wasn't out yet, so I had my first boyfriend at that high school when I was about 17, 18, and wasn't out. Didn't share that with my parents. They did get to meet him though. He came to dinner with us, but they didn't know he was my boyfriend. So I didn't hide him away from them, but they just were not part of the whole picture.
So, one reason why I'm curious about that is because just from my previous conversations with fashion designers, their queer identity is expressed through fashion. But you, I think, and you can correct me, identify almost maybe primarily, or maybe this is just the work that I know about that you've done as a female fashion designer. Is that? I'm seeing you nod, but
Yeah, yeah, yes. So I did mostly women so far. I did design a few men's pieces, and I did one for a singer, actually, actor for the show Hamilton, the Broadway show.
ooh,
They had a premiere here in Atlanta after the pandemic. They were able to finally have a little get together and have a little party for the actors, and so he wanted me to design a top for him. So that was my first men's piece, and then after that I did a piece for a singer who was LA based, originally from Australia. I also did the shirt that he was wearing for his opening night for his US tour. And then I did a few pieces for some other friends in New York City and LA. So just, a few pieces for male, but like mostly women. Yeah.
I feel like maybe you're a little humble when you describe your business because I'm like, wait, these are kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, I don't like the whole. I don't know. I don't have the words. Like not bragging, but like I guess I don't want to make it sound more than what it is. I don't know. It's
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think that you learned growing up in France? Because that does not sound like an American thing to me.
There's definitely some culture differences, yeah, between the two countries. So, yeah. But I feel American too at this point, so I guess I should take more, more of that part of the culture at this point.
So it does amuse me that while you were in France, you were interested in High School Musical, but you were not interested in designing for musicals. And yet, you did design for someone who was going to Hamilton,
Yeah,
so you're like, I will design for the audience more
yeah,
so than the actors themselves.
yeah,
But we really like went from A to Z and skipped over like the thought process
yeah.
that got you interested in design in the first place. Because, I'm like literally tracking your whole life.
Yeah,
And so far, little baby Yvann is not interested in fashion design.
yeah.
he's just finished dating a girl in Marietta, Georgia. So what happened next?
Yeah, so to backtrack a little bit, I have this childhood memory of being at home with my mom, and she did dance. She was a dancer, as a hobby, with like two other women, and they put on some shows locally around Nice. and she made the costumes for the three of them for the shows. And so that was, I guess, my first experience with sewing, and I saw her sketching. So I would have my little piece of paper, my little blue pen with her, and kind of like mimic what she was doing and kind of draw my own sketches. And so even though the desire of doing fashion design didn't come on until later, I do think that it was ingrained in my mind really early on. Both my parents are creative. My father is an antiques dealer. He's always fixing like old beautiful objects and giving them new patinas, and so it's working with hands a lot. And my mom doing the costumes. So I think it was in there, just kind of flourished a little later.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm not like hearing like the day of. It's not like that happened and you were like, this is it. This is my calling. I'm gonna do fashion design. So like when, what if you're are you able to identify that moment? One.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I had a question for if you were not able to, but you can. So
I think I can. Yeah. So when it came down to going to college and sending out the college application, um, which was a hard process for somebody who just moved from France. Like it was so different than what I was supposed to do in France as far as the application goes. And my parents were really supportive, but they were not really helpful as far as like figuring it all out. So, I did find SCAD in Atlanta, which is a school of college of art and design, and they're also based in Savannah. And when it came down to talking to my parents about going there for design, it wasn't really an option. We just had moved to the US, and my parents wanted me to study something that was more serious. And at that point, I had the desire to go, but the school tuition was just absurd, and that was the only option in Atlanta. And I didn't see myself moving to a different state because I already had moved to the US. I'm not about to move somewhere else. I'm trying to create my network, and I have my friends. I had a boyfriend at the time, so I wasn't about to give all that up to go pursue fashion design. So I was like, fine, like as long as I'm in Atlanta, I'm happy with friends, and I'll just go to school for business, I guess. And that's what I did. Um, but as I was in school for business, I did have good grades and I did fine, but I always knew this was not, my heart wasn't into it. Like I didn't see myself working in the corporate world and trying to climb the ladder. Like I was just in school just to have a reason to stay uh, in the US, pretty much. Like as long as I was in school, I was allowed to be on a student visa. So I was like, this is working out for me. Like, I'm here, I'm making it work. I'll see where this is taking me. And just to wrap this subject, like as far as the school goes, like my first job out of college, even though it was business, was in fashion. I moved to New York for a job in Soho, the edge of Tribeca, and it was for a French fashion brand of lingerie, really expensive lingerie. And so I became account manager for that store, but I was also helping the store manager with a bunch of events, managing the store, photo shoots, dropping off pieces to PR agencies on and on. So yeah.
that's really cool. I had no idea. And I feel like that experience would be really helpful to you in launching your own brand, which we will get to in a second. But you're in New York. You're an account manager for lingerie. That's fun.
Yeah.
You get to see people in underwear all the time, I presume.
Yeah. It was women's wear, but yeah.
Sure, gender full, like Lucas was talking
Yes.
about. But so, like, why did you move back to Atlanta then?
So after 4 years in New York, I did a lot of things that I wanted to do. Um, Part of it was going back to school for fashion design, which I did at Parsons, new school. And that was only a certificate. So it was like night classes after work, like the certificate was just a way to give you insight into the industry and see, show you like the basics and kind of get your foot in the door and see if you actually like it. Some people, took the classes for fun and like, okay, like this is just a hobby. For me, it was way more serious. Like I would go to class and one of my professor was like, oh, we're gonna make a jacket this semester. But just buy fabric that's fairly inexpensive because it's a hard process. And I showed up with like the most expensive yardage of fabric possible that I could afford at the time. It was a bunch of beads and sequin and she's like, "Are you sure you want to learn how to make a jacket with this?" I was like, "Yeah, if I'm about to spend like my semester on this project, it's gonna count for something." But so long story short, after 4 years in New York, working in the fashion industry. doing some modeling there. So I got to see the other side, like working with designers, doing photo shoots and all that, photographers, makeup artists, and then fashion design school. I was like, this is all great, but I'm not really focusing on making my own brand happen. Like I'm spending too much time having fun and partying and going out of the state wherever like whatever is fun around New York City. Um, so I decided to move back to Atlanta to kind of focus on myself and my brand. Like I knew that that would not really happen in New York. There's too much distraction.
Yeah, I am in a place now where I would say like 10 years ago, I would travel to New York like for a weekend and I'd come back just exhausted. I'm like, oh my God. Like there's so much to do all the time and I really want to make the most of my experience. And now, 10 years after that, I'm like, I'm not going to New York. That place is like, I have things to do. I cannot spend a week recovering from a quote unquote vacation in New York.
It is a really tiring place. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You will, yeah. You have to recover afterward for sure.
Okay, so I'm really interested in exploring this brand that you've launched. But why don't we take a quick coffee break and do that?
All right.
Be right back. Okay, ready?
Really?
And it's Filipczak, right? Am I pronouncing that properly?
Yeah, so French way would be Filipczak, Polish way would be Filipczak.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you're gonna explain that to people on the podcast in 2 seconds. Ready, set. We are back on Bottomless Coffee podcast, and I am with Yvann Filipczak, who has taken me through two different pronunciations of his name. We're gonna go through both, but either way, the spelling is YVANN FILIPCZAK. And so go to YvonneFilipczak.com or at Yvann Filipczak on Instagram. Okay, Yvonne, you were just telling me there is a Polish way and a French way to say your name. Hit me
Yeah.
with them.
Growing up in France, for teachers, calling your name in school, I would always say Filipczak. And then the Polish way, which my name is last name is Polish, it's Filipczak. Um, so yeah, I go with both.
How did your family get to France, if you know?
So my mom is French. My mom is from France originally. My father is from Poland and moved to London when he was 20 years old. And then after a few years in London, moved to the south of France and met my mom. And then me.
Your dad makes some moves.
Yeah, this is a third country. Yeah, yeah. Well, fourth technically, but he wasn't in London for many years. But yeah, it was in all the other ones for a while.
So, drawing from his entrepreneurial experience as a store owner and from everything that you learned in your time in New York City, you launched a brand that I would love to hear about. So, tell me about it. Start with the name.
All right, so it's my name. It's Yvann Filipczak or Yvann Filipczak, depending on the country. I recently changed my label to just my first name, Yvann, just because of wanting to make it easier for people to find and remember and kind of rebrand after I've been launched about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Um,
What was that launch experience like for you?
so it was really exciting. It was a lot of work, before actually doing the actual official launch. So in New York City, I had this idea, like I would see women carrying, their yoga mats in the subway and going to fancy, gyms like Equinox or fancy yoga classes of other studios, dressed in Lululemon from head to toe and, wearing all the Cartier bracelets. And then here was their mat under the arms. Like this is just not adding up. Like something needs to be worked around this. Like something needs to be fixed. And so I came up with the design of a luxury yoga mat bag in leather. And even though I went to school a little bit for sewing, pattern making, and other skills, I didn't know how to work leather. Like this is a really tough craft. So I went to a party where most of the people at the party were FIT students, and I was a Parsons student, and we made that really clear that it's not the same.
Wait, what's the difference?
So we joke that the FIT students will be the one sewing, seamstress, the work of the people that go to Parsons. So it's like this little competition that just goes on head to head, and like it's all just good humor.
Yeah.
But I was the only kid from Parsons there, and I was like, okay, like I'm outnumbered, so I have to be nice. But long story short, I met this guy who was in school at FIT for leather, leather craft and leather design, and I was like, oh my gosh, your work is amazing. He showed me some boots that he made in picture on his phone. And I was like, this is really like talented. Like, I would love to talk to you about an idea I have. So we exchanged information, met back up for coffee, and um, we decided to work on the bag together. So he loved the idea. We went to source some leather together in the fashion design district in New York City, and he gave it a try. I gave him the dimension of what I had in mind and the drawings. And even though he's really skilled, that was a really hard shape to make come to life. Like, the bag is tubular, like it's a big tube, to have the same shape as the yoga mat once it's rolled up. And so he directed me towards one of his FIT professor, who also generously agreed to meet with me for coffee.
Huh.
Yeah, and we read it up really well. So like, he was able to make the sample for me, and from that directed me towards a small atelier in New York City that works on leather. Actually, sorry, New Jersey. So it's about 20 miles away from New York City. And yeah, and through that, I started the production. So I went to New Jersey, met with the family-owned little atelier. So it was a daughter and a father with a few people working for them. We did the leather selection together. So they made a special leather for me. So like, we ordered from Italy, like custom colors leather. It took a while for them to get to the US. And then once the leather got here, we got the production started. And here I was with my first order of bags at my house. I created a website around that so I could launch my brand with my first accessory.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I had no idea about everything that went into those bags. What I really first noticed is that the bags are gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. You can see them on the website. Just scroll down a little bit. I think right now, as this recording, if you go to the website, you're going to see kind of some boobs. Um, Scroll past the boobs and you'll get to the bags. And one is a color that I've really started to come to like associate with myself. Is this like gorgeous bright orange. It's really eye catching. Like, there's literally no way that you're gonna walk anywhere with that bag without someone being like, "Excuse me, sir, where is that bag from? I need to know." It's really gorgeous. So similarly, I also sell merchandise. I sell mugs. And if you go to bottomlesscoffeeshow.com and click on shop, then you'll have a checkout experience, but that will send, an order to some fulfillment partner who will just like ship it straight to you. I did not go to New Jersey to meet, the pottery master who created these mugs and then like stamped my logo on them. It's like a really like beautiful almost an origin story or craftsman story. And I feel like you don't really hear that anymore. Like the level of care and attention that you put into the first product
Yeah.
that you launched.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I love your mugs too. Your mugs are super cute, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was really great. Like, at the time I was already living in Atlanta, so I flew back to New York, went, to New Jersey, and um, they had this catalog where you can choose, hardware. So we like handpicked hardware together as well. So it was just, yeah, it was a full process of like learning how to go from an idea to sample production to an actual production. So I learned a lot.
And you identified an opportunity as well. Let's not discount the value of that as well. You're like riding the subway and you're like, you are fabulous, except for that crusty ass yoga mat you're carrying. Cover that up in some Italian leather.
New York,
Yes, yes. Okay, and obviously they sold well enough for you to keep the brand going. You said that was 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I launched December 2020, and we're about to be in 2020. Yeah, about to be, yeah, so about almost 2 years, yeah, close to 2 years. Um, and also sold the bags to a few architects, so it also served as an architect bag for prints, and yeah, so that was, that was an insight I got as I was, exposing them to in front of people and like getting people's feedback. So yeah, testing the market and figure out what people want.
Now, how did you go from bag design, let's say, or maybe accessory design, a very particular type of accessory design to clothing? Because you'd almost think that you'd go, okay, well now I've got the bag, let me do the purse or the watch band or something like that. Like where did your mind take your brand after
Yeah.
the bag?
So when I launched the bag, I always knew this was a way for me to kind of, start a brand. I didn't want to do accessory design per se, but I knew that with, if I make a piece of clothing, it's going to be hard to stand out at first because there's a lot of clothes out there and people making clothes. So I figured that, like an idea that hasn't done been yet, or like done in this specific way, would kind of make me stand out more so. But it was always with the idea of actually making clothes. So Ralph Lauren actually did the same thing. Like he launched his brand with ties. So he started by doing ties, and now he's at the head of a multi-billion-dollar company, which I aspire to. I'm not saying I will get there, but I'm trying to get there. And so yeah, the design of the bag was more a way of kind of getting my foot in the door and getting started. Um,
Hmm.
and to answer the question, yeah, as shortly, quickly afterward, started making dresses, and that's kind of what I like to do.
Okay, so talk to me about your incredible dress experience. I think you got to dress a celebrity and you were on French news.
Yeah. So her name is Marilyn Nahas. She's an American actress, but also dual citizenship with Lebanon, and she speaks French. And we got to meet in New York City about 6, 7 years ago. At the time, I was going to castings for modeling, and she was trying to go into acting. So she had already been, performing on stage, but she was looking for representation. And so my agency at the time wasn't an agency yet, so I went for like a casting call when they were like recruiting new models, and they also had a side of the agency that was for actors. And so we both waiting, in the room to be seen. And so we started chit chatting and realized that we spoke French, and so exchanged information. We rode the subway afterward together as well. And next thing you know, she made it into acting. She became a character on Orange Is the New Black on Netflix, as part of season 6, I believe, or season 7, I don't remember. And so we stayed friends through the years. And one day, I guess we were talking on Instagram, and we mentioned about how could it be to partner, if she was to go to the film festival in Cannes. And I was like, well, we're gonna make that happen. I want to dress you for that for sure. And so this past May was the 75th edition of Cannes Film Festival, which is 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So it was kind of really special for me to go back and be like, I grew up close to it, and knowing all the stars were there and the red carpet and all that glamour and all those beautiful dresses. And so it was like it was really exciting for me to like get to dress one of my friends um, for that specific event, really. Um, and then as far as the news, so a journalist got in touch with me when I did Paris Fashion Week about a year and a half ago. Actually, no, it was last year. It was literally last year in October. And so after Fashion Week, somebody reached out from TV channel France 3, which is like the third channel out of the six that we have, the main channel. Hey, like, we would love to come and interview you in your studio. Can we come in, sometime soon? And I was like, thank you so much for the offer, but I'm actually based in the US.
Oh,
So, and so their answer was, if you ever come back to France in the near future for work, we'd love to get to interview at that point. And so sure enough, once I found out that we were going to the film festival, I reached back. I was like, hey, by the way, I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in, but I'll be in Cannes for dressing an actress, and these are my dates. And they're like, yes, we want to interview you.
That's amazing. So they wanted to interview you just for your brand and for your journey. Um, and you were like, well, let me deliver this really incredible story. Or just right in your lap. Because it was a four-part series,
It was,
right?
it was a mini series. So at first, the journalist calls me and is like, hey, like we can either go two ways. Like we can have an interview and it's gonna be like a minute 30 on air and just, show your work, show what you're doing for this specific event, past work, Fashion Week. Or I'm asking production for a mini series where we get to kind of see it from the point of view of the dress. So the dress will be the main character, and we hear the story from the dress's perspective. So the birth of the dress, the decision from the actress to wear that specific dress, that dress being jealous when the actress wears different other dresses. So it was a really cute idea. I was like, okay, like yeah, if you want to do that, that's a little bit overwhelming, but I'm also really for it.
Um, but okay, you had already designed the dress by that point.
No, no.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, that's what. Yeah, so that's what was tricky. Like, they're like, well, we're going to do 4 episodes. All of them about 3 to 4 minutes long, and it's going to be aired 4 different days during the film festival. So I was like, this is a lot of pressure. And another obstacle was that Mary Lou at the time was in Lebanon, and I was here in Atlanta. And we were gonna meet in Cannes, so there was really little room for me to like do the feelings on her, and so we actually did the fitting in front of cameras in Cannes. So I sent her a few sketches of the direction I thought I wanted to go in, and from her feedback, I kind of got redirected. Like she's like, I love this. I want to show some a little bit of leg. I want to feel empowered. And I was like, this is exactly what I need to hear from you. Like I need your feedback to kind of know what you have in mind. And so it was kind of like a collaboration as far as like getting her ideas and what would she would feel comfortable in. And so just to be safe, I created 3 different outfits, and um, we got to try them on and see which one she felt the best in, and she picked one out of the 3. So we still got to shoot the other 2 outfits, and she got to wear them for after parties and other events while the film festival was taking place. But she picked one main outfit for the event.
So I want to ask you a little bit, um, maybe about that dress and your aesthetic to see if the dress is your aesthetic or where it lives in there. Because you mentioned empowerment, and it seems like maybe for her, empowerment has to do with showing skin. Because, maybe she asked for some leg, but you showed a lot of leg. Come on.
So yes, so my design, I would say I do want to empower is like the one I feel like a lot of designers said that word and it's kind of like recurring, but it's really what comes to my mind. Like I really want somebody to wear my clothes and feel like, okay, I feel really amazing in this. I feel like really like I can take over the world and like I can walk confidently into a room. I want that energy. I want people to feel really amazing about the way their body, like you don't have this, oh, am I looking okay? Or, like you just feel great about yourself. And that changes, the way people perceive you, but also your interaction with them because you feel so secure, then you give another aspect of yourself. And I think as an actress, on your first uh, film festival, that's important to feel this way. Like you want to you want to show confidence, and you want to be like like I'm part of this crowd of people. I'm as talented as they are, and I deserve to be here. So it was really important for me for her to feel empowered. Um, but well, yeah, when it comes to my design of that empowering, I do like mixing. Um, it's almost like I don't want to say art, but like it's almost sometimes it's not really wearable on a daily basis. Like it's pushing it to really like you would wear that at an event or a red carpet event on the runway, but riding the subway with it maybe not comfortable. Maybe not the best option. Um,
Yeah.
and I like old Hollywood. I like that feeling of glam and like shiny and elegance. So that's kind of what I'm striving for.
I've also seen you use like this golden color that you kind of have going on in the background right now. I don't know its actual color.
Yeah, yes, that is like old gold. Yeah, it's like a place that's vintage. It's a tiny little piece. I'm trying to do like something with it.
Do you find that that old Hollywood glamour and that sense of empowerment Like, is it tough for you to make those work together, or is the since here's the thing, the empowerment is going to be like on an individual by individual basis, whereas that first design, the bag you made, is like a standard, like ready to carry piece that really stands out in its color and its texture, which itself makes someone feel empowered. And
Right.
so I just wonder, like, is that fun for you? Is that, do you just like love doing that? You know what I mean? Is
Yeah,
that that's the process?
yeah, I really do. So I think no, I think I'm having a. I think it comes very easily to me to like mix, the whole Hollywood and empowerment. I guess it's a modern twist on Hollywood. I don't know. But yeah, I love when somebody puts on something and they're like, okay, like I love the way I feel. I feel comfortable. I feel good. That's like the best reward. Like that's kind of like what I'm. I'm not really satisfied until I see that reaction. I love the clothes and somebody is pretty in them, great. But like I want them to say, wow, like I feel like amazing, like never before.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Well, everyone, if you want to feel amazing and empowered, call Yvonne. Especially if you're a woman. I should double check. I should circle back. Is the goal the same when you're designing for men?
Yes. So in my last design for a man, I wanted him to feel really comfortable because he was on his first, US tour for his singing show and opening night in LA. I didn't want him to be, hot or, sweating on stage.
Oh, sure.
But that in mind, I was like, what would make him feel comfortable, but still like, where he's presenting himself in a way that will make him feel secure and, empowered.
Yeah.
And I know, there's a lot of talk around, gender neutral clothing as well, and I want to go that way as well. Like I think, clothes. I mentioned women and men a lot during the podcast, uh,
Mm.
but I think clothes should be for everybody. So just wanted to put that out there as well.
Gender full
Yeah,
design is what Lucas So referenced in a previous episode. And I think that's available for everyone to just take. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, fabulous. Well, let's take a quick coffee break. And then I want to go through an exercise where we talk about how you're going to get from where your business is now to that Ralph Lauren status. Be right back. Okay, welcome back to Bottomless Coffee Podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and we are here with Yvonne. Oops, say your last name.
It is that.
Filipczak. I grew up in Atlanta, so I can do a southern twang. Filipczak. Yvann Filipczak, YVANN and also at that on Instagram. The business has been rebranded. I think it's just Yvonne now.
Yeah.
Just Yvonne. Tell us where your business is now, and then I want to talk about how it's gonna look 10 years from now.
Awesome. So now, yeah, I'm doing mainly, custom orders. So this past weekend, I met up with one of my friends who was getting married in the next 2 years, and she asked me to make her dress. So I was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you 1,000% sure? Because this is like, this is a lot to ask." And she's like, on board. So we started like, talking about designs and colors and fabrics. But yeah, so I do custom pieces and also get orders for the bags. Working on getting more point of sales in the US. But my main focus has been kind of like directed towards making clothes.
And which TV show is this friend on?
So
Just
that
kidding.
one,
I'm just kidding. Unless I'm not kidding, and she really is.
no, but she's also a really impressive person. Like all the people that I've been designing for so far have crazy stories or lives, and she graduated from West Point, like in like the top school, military school in the US. So
Mhm.
she's kind of like she's a big deal. Like so, I was like, are you sure? Like this is like, are you gonna beat me up if I don't get that right?
I mean, maybe.
No, she's really, she's peaceful with friends. But yeah, it's been mainly like custom orders from people in my network or people that know my network and somehow get to connect with me.
Okay. So there's no way you could have been prepared for this because I have not released this podcast episode yet. But I had a conversation with a person who owns their own business, and they went to a business coach because they felt that their business had been stagnant. And the exercise that really spoke to them was imagining what their business would be like in 10 years if they did everything right. They got to where their goal was. And then like you today and you in 10 years you meet and you talk through those steps you took to get to your goal. So you don't have to directly explain how you're going to have $1 billion empire by 2033. But when we went through that exercise on the podcast on my end, I was like, oh, I know a couple of things that I need to do in order to be successful. And so, what are a couple of things that you think you need to do in order to grow your business?
So one of the main ones would be my actual location. So Atlanta is a great city, and there's a lot going on here. Like the movie industry is moving, and it's like booming as a whole. But as far as fashion, it's still not one of the fashion capital in the world. We have Paris and New York and London, Milan, New York City, and LA would be the one in the US. And I've been in New York for 4 years. I could move back to New York to kind of, be in the right place to kind of promote my brand in a better way and meet the right people and kind of, make those connections that will take you to where you need to get to. Um, LA would be also an option, like Will Ramsey is there and he's doing really great. So I know that's also another option. So I think one of the steps I have to take is eventually go somewhere else than Atlanta. And then I can always move back later to Atlanta because I love it here. But that would be one of the steps I think I have to take.
Okay.
Um, what else would be really helpful to get to be goal in 10 years? Um, I'm thinking about more school as well, to be honest. Like I have some skills, to make dresses come to life. But when it comes down to tailoring, pattern making, there's so much left to learn.
Yeah.
And a lot of designers, like design and have seamstresses and pattern makers for them to do the actual, construction of the clothing. I do want to get to that point where I can have a team of people and I'm just like, here's my vision, please make it come to life and like, fix this place. Like this is not the way I want it. But until I get to that point where I can afford to have a team, I want to have the skills on my own, kind of like be able to make my vision come to life on my own. So I think, yeah, more school, different city, those are two of the big steps I have to take in the future.
So some of what I'm hearing, I actually have seen other people do.
Mhm.
You can maintain a business presence
Mhm.
in more than one place. So you can absolutely travel around like you've been doing to do your custom work. I think you just have to update your website to say LA and Atlanta. I think there's no, they don't send anyone around to check, you know? You
Paris, LA, New York, Atlanta.
I think all that's required is your willingness to travel to those places to do the work. But if your heart is pulling you to the West Coast, obviously follow your instincts because your instincts have brought you to where you are now, which is a lot farther than a lot of people have gone to. And then, secondly, what I feel like you're talking about when it comes to sewing and pattern making and what have you is professional development. And uh, you and I were entrepreneurial and we're going to be lifelong learners. We're always, always, always going to be trying to learn more about that next thing that could help. And even when you have a team, like people quit, people get sick, people have children, like you won't be able to stop your business because of that. You'll need to be able to step in to do any particular part. So your head is in the right place.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good feedback for sure.
Yeah. So when are you moving?
That's the next thing I have to figure out.
Right. Right. Yvonne, this has been wonderful. Thank you for spending some time with little old me. You
Thank
know, not that I bugged you about it for 6 months.
Yeah, thank you for being patient. We get to
You know what? It was worth the wait. And so I appreciate
hear.
it.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience and the world before I let you go?
Yeah, so really, if you had any custom pieces, order that you'd like to send my way, I'd be happy to work with anyone.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, oh, what could he design for me?
You let me know. I can see it coming soon. I can see something, a partnership soon in the future.
And you know me, I'm like, I couldn't find a red carpet event, so I created one. And
Um, I
yeah,
love,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, might do that.
that sounds like a fun plan.
Yeah, well, thank you, Yvonne, and thank you everyone for tuning in. One more time, you can learn more about Yvonne at YVANNFILIPCZAK.com or at Yvann Filipczak on Instagram. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes! Please subscribe and give us all 5, 10, 76 stars if you like this episode. And you can stream more episodes of our podcast and our TV show at bottomlesscoffeeshow.com. See you next time, everybody. Woo!